Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today for Sketchbook Sunday, we are going to play with some pastel pencils and pastels in a mixed media sketchbook. Now this is the Strathmore Tone Tan mixed media paper, which is kind of cardstock weight and fairly smooth. Probably smoother than you'd even consider using with pastels, but sometimes using a different paper with materials that you're used to can give you some really fun effects. For one thing, you can blend really easily on this paper. So I'm going to start off by drawing a bowl of grapes on a cutting board with some fabric in the background. And if you need more real-time drawing help, I do have a course called Learn to Draw with Lindsay, and I'll link it up below in the video description so you can check it out if you're interested, along with a coupon code if you want to save a little cash too. I'm just going in with some tinted charcoal, which is very much like a pastel pencil, and just sketching on these basic shapes. So grapes are circles. The bowl is kind of like a circle, kind of an ellipse when you kind of smush a circle down. We've got lines. It's nothing too complex. So I do urge you to check out the reference photo that I link in the video description and drawing it yourself. You'll probably be surprised at how well you do. I'm using some stick pastels here to fill in some larger areas of color. I'm just layering up the colors that I need to kind of mix and find the exact color that I want, because you can blend colors together. I think people don't think you can do that with a dry media sometimes, and a lot of pastel artists don't blend their colors together because they have hundreds to choose from, but you totally can. And if you're working on a smooth paper like this, it's very easy to do. Now the pastels that I'm using are very inexpensive. They're by Royal and Langnickel, and I think they cost between $5 and $10 for that set of sticks that I have there. So you can definitely get started off on a budget, and I actually recommend that you do, because the nice thing about these pastels that are cheaper is that they're non-toxic, generally speaking, because they don't contain cobalts and cadmiums and those expensive pigments that artist grade pastels have. And the other thing I urge you to break yourself of, if you have been using pastels, is don't blow the pastel dust. What you want to do is tap it over the trash, and anytime you see me pick up my pad of paper, I'm tapping it into a trash can so that loose dust falls away and I'm not blowing it into the air or all over my studio to make a mess. So I like to change up things sometimes from my reference photo, and this reference photo has a white fabric in the background, but I thought it'd be real fun to kind of juice it up a little bit and use some teals and blues for my fabric in the background. Because you're the artist, you can do whatever you want. Another fun choice would be to do maybe yellows or golden ochre colors to make the purple of the grapes seem a little more vibrant, as they would be a complementary color. So do what you want in your art, and that moment you kind of feel that little self-doubt in your brain saying, oh gee, I don't know if I want to do that, I might ruin it. That's exactly when you want to say, wait a minute, I'm going to do it, because I'm either going to succeed at what I've set out to do, or I'm going to learn something. It's never a bad thing. And that's what's so great about the sketchbook. And that's why I love working in my sketchbook, is because there's no judge. There's no, right or wrong. If I make a mistake, who cares? It's in my sketchbook. I'm going to close it up and stick it on my shelf. So nobody has to see it. It's not going to hang in the Louvre. It's going to be in my sketchbook for me to learn. And that's what I think every artist should have. They should have that place where they feel safe to explore and create and not be judged. You can certainly show people your sketchbook if you're proud of what you've created in there, if you want to share it with the world, but you don't have to. So here I'm going in with some darker colors. I like to get those darks in fairly early on so that I can assign the value. Pastels are actually very similar to painting with oil paints, meaning those lighter colors can gobble up the dark ones real easy. So that's why I kind of wait until I'm done layering on colors, like for the bowl or for the cutting board. I'm putting in that lighter color late because I know it's going to overtake the darker colors. So it's kind of funny if you're used to watercolor where, you have to save your lights. In oils or pastels, those lights can be laid on at the end because they're stronger. Once you opacify a color, it gets really light and strong. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're using pastels. I don't know if you can see that I've got my fuzzy Cookie Monster blue bathrobe on because it's a little chilly this morning, and I am working first thing Sunday morning in my sketchbook, as I like to do before anybody else is up. So I probably should have put on a fancy sweater since I'm recording, but you know what? We're friends. You can handle seeing the bathrobe sleeve. The only thing is I have to be careful not to drag it through my drawing as we're going. And I like to go in with strong colors. That's another thing. When you are working on like those lower layers that you plan on blending and building on top of, you can go in with those powerful, vivid colors because they're easy to tone down, but difficult to amp back up if you need to, especially on a smooth paper, which is only going to hold so much product. So when I talk about the tooth of the paper, what I'm explaining or what I'm describing is how rough the paper is. So generally, if I know I'm going to use a lot of pastel, I will go with a rougher paper. Think of like watercolor paper, like how has that texture? That's very similar. In fact, I've taken watercolor paintings that didn't come out good and just painted over them with like wash or acrylic paint, and then I've saved that to use with pastels. Works great. So recycle that old watercolor painting if you're not happy with it. But when I'm working with a smooth paper, I like to blend those lower layers with my fingers, and then I can layer on my softer pastels on top, which is what you're seeing kind of scattered over that tray of square pastels, which are a little harder. I've got my artist quality round pastels that will easily go on top of these other pastels because they're softer. It's kind of like the fat over lean rule from oil painting. If you're an oil painter, you put those thin layers of paint down first that dry quick, and then you add oilier layers on top that take longer to dry, and that keeps your paint from cracking. So we don't really have to worry about the archivability of going fat over lean in pastel, but we're more worrying about the stickability of going soft over hard, I should say, with pastels. These softer pastels are going to stick on top of those harder pastels. But you can get some really neat effects. I can go back in with harder pastels or pastel pencils and get some neat kind of scribbly lines that will not be really strong, but they will give me that texture that I want. Like if I need to redefine an edge, or I just want to maybe throw in some of that frosty look of the grapes, I can go in with a pencil and I'm kind of half scraping out some of the soft pastel and half laying down color. It's just a neat way to kind of go in with some texture towards the end of your pastel painting. Most of it's not going to stick because your pastel pencils are harder than the softer pastels you have down at this layer, but it gives you that neat texture and rhythm and life to a painting, and it's just kind of a fun look. Also, I recommend you kind of look at colors that may be a little unusual. Like I added some peach into those grapes because as you're looking at those grapes, which we know are a dark kind of purpley red, if they're in the shadow, they look almost black. If they've got light shining through them, they look red, kind of like a wine red color. If they've got that natural wax on them, they look a little frosty. If they've got a shiny spot in the grape and it's getting hit by the light, it's got a crisp highlight on it. So you have all these different textures and colors to suggest as you're painting. So really look at your reference photo or look at the item that you're painting and pick out those little nuances, because that is really what gives a painting its magic, is you as the artist seeing these things that nobody else notices, and you're putting it in the painting so people will know to look at that and will know to notice it. And that's kind of a special gift you have as an artist. You see these things and then you can add them back in. And here I'm going in with a kind of like a raspberry colored pencil because I know that I can just subtly reef shape things. I can give things a little bit more form and energy, but I know it's not going to seriously affect what I've done so far because it's a hard medium over a soft medium, and it's just only going to have so much sticking power. I like to go in and keep layering. It's such a fun thing, especially going in with that black pastel at the end and then that white pastel at the end to it's kind of like the sprinkles on a cupcake, it's those little final refinements that you can do. And there, I'm going to call that done. And I hope you enjoyed this. I'll probably spray this with a little fixative to keep it from smudging in my sketchbook, and that's that. I hope you sketched something in your book today. Let me know how you're doing in the comments below and give me a thumbs up if you liked it. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.